Over half a century has passed since November 24, 1971. Yet, in the shadows of law enforcement history, that date refuses to fade. That was the day a man calling himself Dan Cooper boarded Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon. To the casual observer, he looked ordinary. A neat business suit, a briefcase, a calm and collected demeanor. But once the plane was airborne, that calm shattered. Cooper handed a flight attendant a note. He claimed to have a bomb. His demands were simple, terrifying, and precise. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a refuel stop in Seattle. The crew complied, following instructions they could hardly believe. In Seattle, Cooper exchanged the passengers for a bag of ransom money and one of the parachutes. The plane lifted off again, carrying only flight crew and the ransom, but never Cooper. Somewhere over the dark, stormy skies of the Pacific Northwest, he opened the rear stairs of the aircraft and vanished into the night, parachute strapped on, ransom in hand. No trace. No body, no belongings. Nothing beyond a handful of spent materials, a rare tie left behind, and a $200,000 ransom that disappeared into thin air. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the very agency built to solve America's most baffling crimes, opened what would become one of its most exhaustive investigations, codenamed NORJAK, short for Northwest Hijacking. Agents chased hundreds of leads, interviewed anyone who resembled the composite sketches, and scrutinized every tip. Over 800 suspects were considered in the early years. Parachutes were tested for feasibility, aircraft logs were dissected for hidden clues, and ransom bills were traced with painstaking care. For decades, each promising lead ended in frustration, dead ends, cleared suspects, or tips that proved irrelevant. To the public, it became a legend, the ultimate disappearing act. To the FBI, it became a cautionary tale of audacity, precision, and meticulous planning that challenged even the most seasoned investigators. By 2016, after decades of pursuit, the FBI officially declared it would no longer actively investigate the case. Resources were reallocated, agents moved on, yet the file remained. The bulk of evidence, interviews, forensic reports, and suspect lists were locked away, some pages declassified over time, but hundreds still heavily redacted or withheld entirely. And that is where the mystery deepens, where secrecy, unanswered questions, and human curiosity collide. The publicly released portions of the NORJAK file give hints of Cooper's meticulous nature. One standout clue was the tie he left behind on the plane. It suggested Cooper may have worked in specialized manufacturing or aerospace industries, a professional accustomed to precision and discipline. And yet, the core questions remain unanswered. Who was Don Cooper? Did he survive the parachute jump, or was he lost to the harsh forests of the Pacific Northwest? If he survived, how did he evade capture, hide evidence, and escape with the ransom? If he died, why was no body ever recovered? For all the decades of investigation, the FBI could never prove culpability beyond a reasonable doubt. The sheer volume of work failed to produce a definitive answer. Significant portions of the file remain redacted or sealed, with the agency citing concerns about investigative techniques, sources, and potential prosecution. But to observers, the secrecy raises its own question. What does the FBI know that it isn't revealing? For those who watch, read, or study true crime, this absence of closure lingers like a wound. The missing suspect becomes the one that got away. Missing pieces become fuel for speculation. And above all, there is one universal question. Why does the FBI keep so much under lock and key? There are legitimate reasons: ongoing investigations, protection of undercover sources, and safeguarding forensic methods. But decades later, with the statute of limitations expired and suspects long presumed dead, the veil of secrecy begins to smell of embarrassment, liability, or unfinished threads no one wants to revisit. The myth of Dan Cooper burned itself into public consciousness, a man who defied authorities, vanished into thin air, and left nothing behind but questions. Yet the FBI's vaults tell a different story, one of relentless pursuit. Forensic labs tested every possible clue. Aircraft experts analyzed every angle, cross-country interviews, traced potential suspects, and the ransom bills themselves were scrutinized with painstaking care. The evidence paints the picture of a crime not of passion, but of calculated precision. Cooper demanded parachutes, negotiated his ransom, and likely knew exactly when and where to make his jump. Every testimony, flight log, and FBI report reinforces a vision of a man who was not desperate, but professional, deliberate, and extraordinarily careful. Even for an institution like the FBI, there are limits. Evidence decays, trails vanish, witnesses die, memories fade. Some crimes, executed with cold precision, leave only a single truth: a parachute descending into the wilderness, disappearing forever. In 1971, forensic science was primitive compared to today. No widespread DNA testing, numbered digital surveillance logs, and limited cross-state data sharing. What remains of the Cooper file today reflects both the diligence of the investigators and the limitations of the era. And even now, despite technological advances, no definitive physical evidence links a suspect to the crime. For years, the file sat hidden, not because investigators didn't know, but because revealing it could compromise sources and methods. That reasoning once made sense, but does it still hold when the case is effectively closed, the statute of limitations expired, and no suspect can be prosecuted? Secrecy breeds suspicion, it stirs legends, it spawns theories, and in the case of Cooper, where the unknown literally floated away in the night, the lack of transparency becomes part of the mystery itself. Even when there are no direct victims, as in the Cooper hijacking, sealed files can exact a toll. In other cases where victims exist, missing persons, assaulted children, disappeared dissenters, the lack of closure leaves a wound that never heals. Refusing to release full files may protect an investigation, but it also denies closure to families, historians, and the public. Every unsolved crime carries a memory, a life, a name, and when those records remain hidden, it is as if those lives never mattered enough to remember. The FBI's sealed files, especially high-profile ones like NORJAK, serve as warnings. Power sometimes operates in shadows, and silence is sometimes the final resting place of truth. Decades later, new evidence could emerge: a shard of parachute, a ransom bill, a forgotten letter, or even a confession. The generations born after 1971 have reason to ask, why should a 50-year-old mystery remain under lock and key? What does the FBI still fear? Sometimes the truth is no more dangerous than shame or embarrassment. For fans of true crime, for researchers and journalists, unsolved and unreleased cases become more than mysteries. They become obsessions. They carry the ache of what could have been, the tantalizing whisper of what might still be found. But for families and victims of lesser-known cases, these files are burdens of grief left open-ended, denying justice, denying peace, denying a final chapter. When the public record ends, memories fade, leaving only silence, often deliberate. Within that silence lies something darker than mystery: neglect. A refusal to confront failure, a system too cautious or too slow to ever deliver closure. The case of Don Cooper and countless others like it is a stark reminder that closure is never guaranteed, that justice does not always arrive. That time, inexorably, can become the enemy of truth. If this story of high-level secrets, sealed files, and unsolved crime gave you chills, don't turn away. Hit subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most baffling mysteries. Share this story and comment with "Unseal the Truth" if you believe justice shouldn't depend on secrecy.